Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Questions and Reason. This is Sessions with the founder. It's the R, baby. It's the R. All right, so I was asked what I think of Orania. What's there to think of Orania? There's nothing to think about Orania. Orania has features of a gated community. A gated community is a place where somebody decides to build residential areas and put a huge fence around it or a big wall around it so that the have-nots cannot access it. Not only that, but carry out the duties of a local government or a municipality by building parks and all these nice infrastructure that will attract the people that have money to come and stay there. That's all Orania is, right? Can it be a country? That's a different story. I mean, the reason why they're stable now is because South Africa is a stable country. It's not because they know how to protect themselves. I heard somebody say, oh, they have zero crime. Well, so does a lot of estates. When the security, when the electricity is gone or when we are experiencing load shedding, they can have power. Well, so does many other estates and malls and factories and so forth, right? So they're not doing anything that's different from what a gated community is doing. Creating a state, on the other hand, is a whole different story. You need big budgets, right? Why do you need big budgets? Because you have to create a police force. You have to create an army. You have to create institutions of government such as embassies. Do you think the people who stay at Orania right now can pay taxes that can build embassies across the globe? Maybe not. Is it impossible that they become a state? It's not impossible. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's possible. I'm just saying that there's little crime at a security estate, and there's a reason for that, because the haves can afford to pay somebody to be at the gate, to pay somebody to patrol around their areas so that that is lowered. But when you are dealing with the dynamics of a state, of a country, you're going to have immigrants. You're going to have people who are poor. You're going to have people who are unemployed, right? It's a whole different ball game when you have that. Because they cannot afford private security, private healthcare, private parks, and all these things, they protest. You can never find somebody who's living at an estate protesting because they can afford to buy a generator when the electricity grid is not working or when the country is experiencing load shedding. That doesn't mean that they're solving problems. It just means that they have money. Full stop. So how will you ensure loyalty when you're creating an army? That's a whole problem on its own. If you look at Hotel Rwanda was at a suburban place, prestige, attracting foreign internationals, people from Canada, people from Europe, people from all over the place who have money, were able to dine there, laugh there, have a holiday there in a safe place. But the safety was provided by the stability of the country, not by the security guard at the door. right? The day that Rwanda became unstable, we saw what happened. We saw the most safe place, the most prestige place being penetrated, people being harassed. Why? Because the country was not stable. So Orania is only enjoying the safety because they are within the country, South Africa. That means that the army that is there is providing them some sense of security. The police that is there is providing them some sense of security, just as they're doing to a whole lot of estates. It's just that estates now have people who have money who can go an extra mile and buy who can buy the services of a security company, right? But the day that the country is unstable, that security guard will be the first to attack them. Why? Because that security guard cannot afford to stay in a place that he's protecting. He's probably facing the same service delivery issues as the guys who are protesting on the streets. That's my take on Orania. If we really want to fix the country, we have to fix the institutions of our government. That is the best way forward. Not by privatizing everything, but by making sure that public institutions work for every single person, right? I heard somebody saying that the health minister should not have, for example, medical aid or shouldn't access private health care. They should use public services like public transport, like public health care, and so on and so forth. That is a very good idea. But let's say right now, the Minister of Healthcare in the country is facing some sort of an injury. If they go to a Baragwana hospital or a George Mukhari hospital, they're not going to stand in line like everybody else. They're going to be prioritized. So they're not really going to feel the pains and the issues of a day-to-day person who comes there bleeding to death, and the nurses are just giving that person a bad attitude or screaming at that person, or not even attending to their issue immediately, right? They're not going to face that. They will be prioritized just because they're high profile. So they will ensure that they look good even when everybody knows that nothing looks good, right? Remember when the president of the country took the train, Gailo, the metro rail? He was stuck in traffic for an hour, right? He could only, not traffic, the train stuck there for an hour. He could only experience it that day. People experience it every single day. I heard that the trains are not working now, but people were experiencing that every single day. They're trying to get to work and the trains don't work. Somebody gets stuck in that situation for how long? For an hour or 2 hours, and every single day they tell their bosses an excuse to say, why are they late? So it looks like they're just making things up. What am I saying? I'm saying that should we fix, if we want to really fix the country, private is not the way to go. We should fix public services. People who wants to be defended in court should be able to get a good lawyer still, right? Right now, the country that we stay in, if you don't have money, you cannot go to court. You cannot sue a person because it takes a whole lot of money to be able to contest your freedom. So your freedom of speech cost you a 300,000 rands for you to be in court to defend it. So you are not really free. Your speech is not free, because if you say something and somebody sues you, you're gonna be in a whole lot of debt that you're paying off for what? For exercising the right that they say they gave you, which is not a right at all. It's an expensive luxury for you to be able to go to court. Not only that, but you have to afford a fancy lawyer for you to win a court case. How many people can do that? So the justice system in the country right now is for the rich, right? It's for the people who can afford a better lawyer, not for every single person. If we solve the problems of the majority, the problems of the people who are unemployed, the problems of the people who are dependent on government service delivery, then we'll be solving the country, because this means that the rich now can enjoy their luxury in peace. Otherwise, they will have to flee the country. Otherwise, we will see another Rwanda shut down. Okay, maybe we can tackle Orania some more on concepts where we just break down, every single thing detail by detail, so that you can understand that a gated community is just that, a gated community, right? Moving on. So I want to talk about women, that we need the women to come through. I feel like in the country right now, when most of the young girls find themselves attractive or getting a lot of attention from men, they settle. They no longer, pursue dreams. They just want to settle and be given money by their partner. So they would pursue people who have a lot of money so that they don't have to work. But that comes at a great loss. We lose so much as a country. We lose the next Winnie Mandela. We lose the next Thuli Madonsela. We lose an innovator. We lose an engineer, a doctor, and so forth and so on, right? Martha Mitchell became a voice when it was not fashionable for women to become or to be talking when men are talking, or to be talking in spaces where it involves politics, where it involves business. A woman was supposed to be silent. But she would talk big issues, great concerns, that wars, she would talk about politics, she would talk about business. And this was not fashionable then. In fact, President Nixon decided to make her look bad because they wanted to conceal something. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that she crawled so that we can have a Hillary Clinton. Imagine if Hillary Clinton looked at the mirror and said, "I'm too pretty, I don't have to do anything, let me sit down." And many other women out there, if they decided to do that, it would be a great loss. So I want to appeal to my sisters that we need you in this country to be fighting for that post, to be competing in the media space, to be competing in the IT space, in every industry, there should be women who are leading. There should be women who are working. But why are we now feeling like you're too pretty for you to be wearing an overall, working in the mine? No, I'm too pretty for that. I'd rather be at the mall. I'd rather be at the beach posting pictures. Right? You are making us lose a great asset because there is so much within you that the country can benefit from, your community can benefit from. It is not just about making money, it's about making an impact, and we do need your impact. So be the Martha Mitchell, be the Winnie, be the Tulima Donsela of the current day. Let's have we know that you're beautiful, we know that you're pretty. Let's have that pretty face in places that are making impact, not just in the country, but across the world. Why? Because there are no limits. So I just wanted to highlight that and appeal to my sisters that we need women engineers. We need women across the whole industry. Maybe the reason why we're not fixing ourselves, or we're not fixing the country, or we're not advancing as we should, is because you decided you're not going to take part in this, right? Moving on. So I was reading the book, Guns, Gems, and Steel. It's a beautiful book. I love the book. But the prejudice in the book, right? There's some preconceptions that, Africa didn't have institutions outside colonialism. So colonialism should have, it ended too early. It should have been given some more time so that we can develop. But what people don't really know is that Africa had sophisticated institutions way before colonialization. I would talk about the Mapungubwe. In fact, the Voortrekkers who reached Mapungubwe found Mapungubwe people having farms. They were not hunter-gatherers. This was a sophisticated society which had mining, had farming, and all these other institutions. That was what? That was sustaining them, right? In fact, they had a system that protected them against diseases such as malaria, because the Voortrekkers who have reached Mapungubwe and have reported what they've seen, they were dying of malaria, but the natives of that land were not. They were prospering, even though they had access to the same what? To the same river, to the same land. When the Voortrekkers tried to plant, nothing would grow. Why? Because they couldn't understand the climate of the tropics. The reason why they were able to prosper in places like the Cape is because the climate at the Cape is more similar to Europe, right? So whatever it is that they were doing in Europe, it was easier to do here. I mean, in Cape Town, in the Cape. That's why they managed to prosper and have farms and what. But when they reached the Mapungubwe, they couldn't do anything. And most of them started dying because of diseases, such as malaria, of course. So what am I saying? I am saying that mining existed, farming existed. It's just that the people who were organized at the time were disorganized again by the colonialists, right? Who came and took them from their homelands, burned their houses, and made them work for free, made them work for cheap labor, right? So for generations and generations, the people of Mapungubwe forgot their systems. They forgot the way they ordered the horo or their courts. They forgot the way they did farming in the tropics that was what? That was prosperous. They forgot how to do their mining because the grandfather was not being able to transfer this wisdom to the father and the father to the son. Why? Because our system of educations were apprenticeship. That means that whatever that your father is doing throughout, you are sticking around with him, learning everything that he's doing until the day that he passes on so that you can take over. You can't, that was not happening. Why was it happening? Because they were being enslaved. They were moved from their own places and working at a place that they are forced to work, doing hard labor. So, as much as I love the book Gun, Gems and Steel, and I believe that it provides a broader conversation. That is why we're having this conversation in the first place. The fact that we have, abandoned our geographic advantages, but we really didn't. We have to go and relearn, and there is no place to relearn because our ancestors were not documenting all these things. Like I said, the education at the time was apprenticeship. That means I stick around with my father, see how he's fishing. He shows me how to fish, how to do my net. That's what I do, right? I stick around with him. We go to the farms. I see how the threshing floor works. I get to ride the cows and the donkeys and what. And then I get to understand how it works, right? Then I understand how we plant millets, sorghums, and all these things. But that has been forgotten over time because we couldn't be in a place where this is practiced and they're able to show us, right? So what we need is a sense of rediscovering that history. How did they manage to build the great Zimbabwe? How did they manage to build the great Mapungubwe, right? So if we manage to do that, then we'll be able to what? To have sustainable growth in places where the voortrekkers failed. We love the voortrekkers. Why do we love the voortrekkers? They have advanced the country a lot. We acknowledge their contribution, and their sense of being the side has really helped the country move forward. But imagine if we had their wisdom and our forefathers' wisdom, what was going to happen? We would have been the biggest, or we will be one of the best nations in the world, because now we're taking wisdom that is coming from somewhere and we're adding to ours. That is extra wisdom. The problem is we forgot our wisdom and we had to learn the way of what? Of the white people. Generations and generations of cheap labor or of free labor. And then now, what do we have to do? We have to try and compete with that. Do you see the inequalities? So Imagine your great-grandfather working for free, building another man's empire. Your grandfather working for free, building another man's empire. Your father, maybe there's some form of rights now, he can get little money. How will he be able to catch up? Not only that, he now has to learn a system that was not in his lineage, right? There is something called heritage. Heritage means that, for example, if you look at the country France, right? How did it end up winning the World Cup, the previous World Cup? It's because in '98 you saw them there. They were somewhere in the finals. In 2002, same thing. It's either, they are qualifying or they get knocked out in the quarterfinals. They are in the finals, they're in the semifinals, they're in the quarterfinals. So it's a heritage until they get to do what? They get to finally win the World Cup. You understand what I'm saying? So it's one generation passing to the next generation, passing to the next generation, passing to the next generation, right? Until the generation that they have now was able to conquer and is number one. But it didn't come out of nowhere. It was a heritage, football heritage. All right, so this is what I wanted to discuss. You know how sessions with the founders work, all right? So we just take something, tackle it a little bit, and move to the next. I'm not sure when we're gonna drop concept, but it will be great if we tackle things like Orania from the ground up, from the roots, and actually analyze how it works, right? And what it would take for them to be a country, for them to be a sustainable country. Because, if now they have an invasion, let's say they become a country tomorrow, and another country invades them, what's going to happen to Orania? All right, so this is Sessions with the Founder. You know what to do. Like, subscribe, comment, criticize, hate. All right, it's the R. I'm out.